Can we talk about how amazing this lighting is though? I'm in front of a huge window. This is fantastic. Today I'm doing a review of Vivian Divine is Dead by Lauren Sable. I gave this book 3 stars on Goodreads, but honestly it's more of like a 3.5, 3.75, but we all know Goodreads doesn't do that. This book is centered around the girl named Vivian Divine, and she is in a family of people who work in the movie industry. So her dad is like a director and her mom is an actress. And before the book begins, her mom has been killed. Then she receives a death threat, and so her bodyguard has her go hide out in Mexico. And the book is just her trying to escape from these people, figure out what's going on, and overall not get herself killed. I thought this was a standalone, but it was really set up in the end to be a series or companion book, so I'm not completely sure where it's going from this, but I am like 99% sure that it does not end there. I was in love with this book because I read it so quickly. I get really distracted easily, so I read books in like 50-page chunks, then I do something, then I read, then I do something, just so I don't get bored. But I read the whole last 200 pages of this at like midnight to 2 a.m. This book is kind of like a cat and mouse chase, so it's the bad guy and the good guy, and they're just like going around trying to escape, obviously, and it was set up really well because it's not some stereotypical we're running from the police type thing. It was, you didn't really know who was coming after her and you didn't know why. That was really interesting because it wasn't just, it was like more than one levels of suspense, like she's being hunted, but also who was doing it, but also why is she a problem? So it was just all these different things that I just could not put it down because I needed to know. And trust me, I was getting sleepy. I remember like the last 50 pages, I was nodding off, but I was like, what happens? Vivian, like I said, is a movie star, so having to be in those survivalist situations was kind of annoying to read about, but probably that was also intended because Vivian is, let's just say, a spoiled brat. At first I was so bothered by it. I was like, how could you live like this? Oh my gosh, shut up, get over it. But then I realized if she had acted any other way, it would have been weird. So again, it was kind of like a little bit intended too because the character development that went on, she had to do all these dirty tasks and like get on her hands and knees and get scraped up and eat weird things, and that led to her being more of a better person, more of a well-rounded person. She kind of got to see a different side of the world where everything isn't perfect in their lives, and I think that was like a really good self-realization thing for her. This is just a minor thing that I picked up that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but like I said several times now, this is set in Mexico, and the author made this out to be like Mexico was some kind of like the middle of nowhere, and there's bandits everywhere, and you have to sleep on the ground and make a campfire and eat a squirrel for dinner. And I don't know if that's actually what Mexico is like, because I don't live in Mexico and I've never been to Mexico. But from my understanding, I would assume that going from one city to another in Mexico, you're not gonna have to sleep on the ground and eat a squirrel. And it made it to be such a survivalist situation, but in reality, I wasn't sure that Mexico was that, like, maybe it is, maybe we just needed more of an explanation that they were in a very rural area, and that could have cleared all that up, but either way, I was just like, my next point is something that I have talked about this in a bookish notes video. This is just a personal pet peeve, but obviously it might not affect you at all. But this is one of those books where it's kind of inevitable, but they speak a lot of Spanish, but then they don't translate it or tell you what it means. So half the conversations in this book are all Spanish, and I was too lazy to look them up. I didn't have my phone with me. I don't know Spanish. But it was just a personal thing. Like, I need to know what you're talking about. This seems like a really important conversation. So that's just a personal thing aside. It happened, just letting you know. If you know Spanish, you might get this, but I was like, I lost you at hola. Once things were starting to unravel and we got to know the relationships behind different people in the story, I was just really annoyed because I was like, well, that's too convenient. There is no way that she traveled all that and like everything is interconnected. But then whenever it kept explaining it, I realized that it was all, oh, there's a bird outside. It was all intricately planned. And then that made me end up really liking it because then I was like, did not see that coming, which brings me to my next point. Lots of really, really awesome plot twists that I did not see coming. There was a lot of insta-love, like that was one of the major things when I was just like rolling my eyes at this insta-love that happened, and it was so random in a mystery story and like I said, like a chase story for her to be like, the cops are outside, but his eyes were so dazzling. A few of the lines were corny, that was inescapable. And then overall, just not rememberable. I don't think I'll get the sequel. I am glad that I was sent this because it really had me reading fast. And this isn't a huge book, but I was flying through this. And I will recommend this to people that need, like, it was a really good mystery and it went by so fast. So I already went on Goodreads and recommended this to my friend who lives in Mexico, and I was like, hey, a book set in Mexico. I will see you next time. Thank you for watching this review. Thank you, HarperCollins, for sending me this arc. And until next time, hope you have a nice day. Goodbye.